Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got why Jaylen Wright is the craziest running back in the NFL. His insane rise, bro. I like Jaylen Wright a lot, bro. Like, I didn't know about him until like the not last season, but the season before last, bro. He didn't really get as many reps at Tennessee as what I'm saying everybody would like. But his first season he had 409 rushing yards. His second season, I'm saying, he had 875, and then the previous season last year he had over 1,000 yards. I think it was like 1,013 yards or whatever. But bro can ball out for real, and it's only a matter of time before he, I'm saying, becomes one of the better running backs in the NFL. Bro ran 4.38 at the NFL Combine. But he probably won't get as many reps this season for the Miami Dolphins because they already got Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. But with Mostert getting up there in age, maybe, what I'm saying, for the next few years, him and Achane will be one of the best running back duos in the league. But let's go ahead and check this out.
This year's running back class was honestly pretty weird. There wasn't a generational or huge name by any means, but there are a couple of guys who I think could definitely make an impact at the next level. One of them is Jaylen Wright. Jaylen Wright not only has world-class speed, but he had big-time numbers at Tennessee, had an insane work ethic, and predicted his time in the NFL almost 10 years ago. Wright was most recently drafted to the Miami Dolphins, and many were shocked to see him fall that far in the draft.
Facts. I was too.
In today's video, I want to introduce you to Jaylen Wright. We're going to go through how he got to this point, his journey, how he did at Tennessee, and why he is a steal for the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
Before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about Jaylen Wright. In order to understand how Wright got to this point, we first need to go back in time. Ever since Jaylen played Pop Warner football at 4 years old, his father detected that he was a rare type of person. He had absolutely no fear, and if his son failed at a tackling drill, he couldn't wait to dust himself off and face that same kid again. Yeah, Jaylen was obviously different, but there was
W mindset, bro.
His uncle played tight end at Concord University, and his dad also played in high school. But mainly, he said that his world-class speed and his work ethic was built from him. At one point, Jaylen Wright was even homeless. After his father had left the police force in Durham, North Carolina, his world would completely turn upside down. Jaylen was headed back to high school, and he had pure intentions and wanted to be more of a present father in his life. The best way to do that in his mind was to change professions, but all he knew was policing. From 20 to 38, he worked there, and it was time for a change. He decided to become an entrepreneur and figured he could carve out more time in his day to be a father. Sadly, he would apparently struggle as he would work at FedEx or even deliver bread, but it just wouldn't work out. Money suddenly became tight, bills became harder to pay, and apparently they were homeless. They couldn't afford their own place, and he said, quote,
bro,
I was homeless. Instead of going in with his mom, Jaylen,
like, this is such an inspirational story, bro. Bro went from homeless and now he's in the NFL, being able to put food on his family tables, bro. This shit is like, I love these type of stories, bro, like these underdog inspirational stories. Like, and then, from them to grow up like that and then reach the top of the mountain, being in the NFL, being, making all this money and shit. I love that type of stuff, bro.
And he was fine sleeping on the floor for nearly 2 full years.
Damn,
after that,
bro.
And after things got really difficult, his dad told Jaylen he needed to get into track. That same year in 2017, they were able to scrap together enough funds to travel to Kansas for a USA Track and Field Championship. While he was there, he placed first in the 400-meter dash with a time of 50.97 seconds, and he became one of the best 13 and 14-year-olds in the country.
Okay.
Combine that with his great ability as a running back, and he was a huge deal. His high school coach said, quote, "Two things that come to mind when I think about Jaylen Wright are explosion and speed." While Wright was a football player who adopted track, he'd only been doing it for a couple of years. At 15 years old, Jaylen then decided to tell his dad that he would never have to work again because he'd be scoring touchdowns in the NFL.
Okay.
He wasn't apparently daydreaming at the time, as there was pure seriousness in his voice. Together, both him and his dad studied different players on YouTube, such as Adrian Peterson's running style, McCaffrey's receiving ability, and Alvin Kamara's patience. While he was at Southern Durham High School, he would have to share the backfield during his junior year, but he ended up running for 901 yards with 5 touchdowns.
Okay.
He averaged an absurd 10.1 yards per carry, and he was trying to become a Power 5 level running back. Where would he end up going? Well, he decided to commit to Tennessee over Arizona State, Campbell, Florida Atlantic, Miami, Rutgers, and Syracuse. Why the Vols? He said, quote, "First things first, I'd like to thank God for the whole recruiting process and the ability he gave me to be athletic and a student athlete. After a long talk with my
God
family,
makes everything
I decided
happen.
to commit to Tennessee. The Vols had offered in early February and got him on campus for a junior day visit. From there, he said everything pretty much lined up once he took the visit there, and he had a great conversation with the running backs coach Jay Graham, and he felt that he trusted him. He also loved Tennessee's tradition, the family atmosphere, and playing in the SEC.
Okay.
It's also worth noting that he had committed to play for Jeremy Pruitt, but after he was fired, he ended up deciding to stick with Coach Heupel, who they just hired away from UCF. So yeah, he was a big-time player, and he would end up winning the 3A state championship for the 55-meter dash and had a state record time of 6.35 seconds. A more specific way of describing his speed was, quote, world class. If he gets one step in front of you, you're not going to catch him. The reason why I say that is because he has the second fastest time in the history of North Carolina.
Damn.
While he was good and had some records, in his mind, he was viewed as good when he said he was unquestionably great. He was labeled as nearly the 40th best running back in the nation, and while his senior year was wiped out by everything going on in the world in 2020, he felt he was going extremely underrated. His father said, quote, he's a humble kid. He's one of those kids you want to be successful, and you root for him all the time. He held 13 scholarship offers, with 10 of them being from Power 5 schools. According to 24/7 Sports, Jaylen Wright was a 3-star recruit, the number 40 running back, and the 659th best player in the class of 2021. So, how would Jaylen end up doing in Knoxville? Well, let's take a look. So when Jaylen arrived in Knoxville in 2021, he was just 17 years old and would have to play because of injuries due to other players on the depth chart. At the time, though, he was kind of behind. His running backs coach said, quote, it wasn't all rosy. He definitely needed to mature, and one of his grandmothers even had to get involved to help. He was so young and didn't understand how to work or how different college was. As I said, he ended up playing a little bit in 2021, as he would appear in 8 regular season games, scoring 4 touchdowns. His best performance came at the back half of the year, as he had 83 yards and a touchdown against South Alabama, and then over 100 yards and a touchdown against Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Tennessee would end up playing in the Music City Bowl, and in that game, Wright would rush for 54 yards. In total as a freshman, he carried the ball 85 times for 409 yards and 4 total touchdowns.
Yep.
Going into 2022, he would now share a backfield with Jabari Small, and Wright would break out. He had nearly 100 yards and a touchdown in their first game against Ball State.
And he had 10 touchdowns
Pittsburgh on the
that
road,
year as
and
well.
then had 2 scores and a win over Akron. He also had a touchdown in their close victory over number 20 Florida, was solid on the ground in wins against both number 25 LSU and number 3 Bama, and then he would finish the year really strong. He had a touchdown against number 19 Kentucky, a touchdown against number 3 Georgia, 2 touchdowns and a win over Mizzou, and 2 touchdowns and a win over Vanderbilt.
Okay.
It seems that Vanderbilt was his school of choice to beat down, as he literally only ran the ball 5 times for 160 yards and 2 scores
Damn.
against the Commodores. They'd end up going to the Orange Bowl, where he ran for nearly 100 yards in their win over the Clemson Tigers, and in total,
Okay.
he'd finished with 875 yards and 10 touchdowns. Jaylen Wright was expected to have a huge 2023 season.
The fall-off of
and that's
Clemson
exactly
is
what
crazy.
happened. Alongside Jabari Small and Dylan Sampson, Wright became one of the best running backs in the league. He went for over 100 yards in their first 2 weeks against Virginia and Austin Peay, helped them beat Florida, and then had over 100 yards and a touchdown and a win over South Carolina. After week 7, Tennessee had become the best rushing attack in the SEC, as they had averaged over 231 yards per game, and
Damn.
Jaylen Wright was at the forefront of it. To finish the year, he had over 100 yards against both Kentucky and UConn, had a touchdown and a loss to Georgia, and then went for 75 yards against Vanderbilt. Jaylen Wright would go over the 1,000-yard mark, as he finished with 1,013 yards and 4 touchdowns. Honestly, when you take a look at the stat sheet, he's solid, but that touchdown number is absolutely horrific. I'm not really sure why he didn't score that much, but I guess it was probably somewhat situational, and they obviously had 2 other running backs who were also very capable. After the season was over, he decided to declare for the 2024 NFL Draft, and Wright viewed himself as the number 1 back in the class. He said, quote, I know who I am, and people who pass up on me in the draft are going to be the people who have to play against me. So that's up to them. Despite his low touchdown numbers, Wright
stand
had
on
over 1,000
business.
yards, averaged over 7.4 yards per carry, and ran a 4.38 40-yard dash time at the NFL Combine. Apparently that was the second best amongst running backs, so many expected Jaylen Wright
Who was
to be
the
a top 2
first?
selection. According to NFL Mock Database, he was a projected 3rd-round pick and the 72nd overall prospect. Sadly, Wright would end up falling a little bit, as he was taken 120th overall by the Miami Dolphins.
I don't know how
I
they
believe they
NFL
landed
let
one of
that
his skills in
happen.
the draft, as I said, he was a projected day 2 pick, and now he ended up going that late. He dropped to the 4th round and was very frustrated. He said, quote, they done messed up. I've got a lot of fire built up in me right now about this whole process. I'm just ready to get out there and prove my point, and make the people who passed me feel me. I'm just ready to bring that aggression to the field and make a lot of big plays. While he did end up falling a little bit, Wright has a couple of apps that made him really draftable. The first one is obviously his speed, as he has world-class speed, and that always hits in the NFL. The second attribute was that he was a great pass protector, which is not something that every running back can really do. And
he definitely reminds me of, you know what I'm saying, Keaton Mitchell from last year, and you know what I'm saying, my Baltimore Ravens signed him undrafted. That's exactly who Jaylen Wright reminds me of.
Well, he probably
with that home run speed
back in the Dolphins' room this year. I think Jaylen Wright's speed and his ability and his work ethic will get him on the field. He'll end up being a guy who I think can come out of nowhere as a rookie, especially if an injury happens, and he's someone that you should not doubt. His dad truly believes that one day he will be in the Hall of Fame, and while that may be a little bit far-fetched to say right now, Jaylen Wright has come a long way. But what do you guys think? If you're a Tennessee or a Dolphins fan, what do you think of Jaylen Wright? What rookie should I cover next? And before you go, don't forget to also leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my video about Trey Benson. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.
Hey man, what do you guys think about Jaylen Wright? Y'all let me know down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on post notification, notified whenever I drop another banger video. One road at 300 subs. Help me get there for more banger NFL content like this. And without further ado, I'm out. Gang!